So today we are going to see some sample candidate writing scripts and examiner comments. But before that, let me tell you that both the academic and general training writing modules, they consist of two tasks, task 1 and task 2. Each task is assessed independently. That means the assessment of task 2 carries more weight in marking than task 1. And the detailed performance descriptors have been developed which describe written performance at the 9 Ielts bands. So these descriptors apply to both this academic as well as general training modules. So about task 1, the scripts are assessed on the following criteria. These are the criterias. First is how you have achieved in that task, what achievement have you made. Then the coherence and cohesion means all the paragraphs should have some coherence. Then lexical resource, what vocabulary you have, range of vocabulary you have. Then grammatical range and accuracy, what you write, whether it is correct, the sentence formation are correct, these are very important. As far as task 2 is concerned, these scripts are assessed like, first is your task response, how you respond to that task, because there is, you will be provided only with 1 or 2 sentences, and if you respond well in this language, then this is what they want. Then again, coherence and cohesion has to be there. Lexical resource again, grammatical range and accuracy. So task achievement and task response varies in this task 1 and task 2. Now, some cautions are there. First is candidates are going to be penalized if they write under the word length. Means under the minimum word length, you have to complete at least 150 here and 250 here, right? Partly or wholly plagiarized means if it is copied from somewhere, then it will not be accepted. Not written in full, connected test like bullet, example bullet point in any part of response or note form is not going to help you. Write in a paragraph because they want you to write in a script. So task 1, what do you mean by task achievement? This criteria assesses how appropriately and accurately and relevantly the response fulfills the requirement set out in the task using minimum 150 words. Then in this academic writing and general training, both of them, first this is a writing task which has a defined input and a largely predicted output because it is academic writing. So it is basically an information transfer task which is related narrowly to the factual content like an input diagram and not to speculated explanation that lie outside the given data. While in journal training with task 1, this is also about writing tasks with largely predictable output in that each test sets out the context and the purpose of the letter and the functions that this candidate should cover, which should be in order to achieve the purpose. What about coherence and cohesion? This criteria is concerned with the overall clarity and fluency of the message. Means how the response organizes and link information, ideas and language. Then coherence refers to the linking of ideas through logical sequencing. The idea should be sequenced. Once you read it, it should be in a flow. And cohesion refers to the varied and appropriate use of cohesive devices like logical connectors, pronouns, conjunctions, so parts of speech will come here to assist in making this conceptual and referential these relationships between and within sentence clear. Right? The sentence should be clear. You will use pronoun or conjunction, then only the sentence will be clear. What about this lexical resource? This lexical resource means this is the criterion refers to the range of vocabulary the candidates has used and the accuracy and appropriacy of that terms that use in the terms of specific task. Means you cannot use just like anything. Those vocabulary and that has to be accurate as concerned or with reference to the topic which has been assigned. What about grammatical range and accuracy? This criterion refers to the range and accurate use of candidates' grammatical resources as manifested in the candidate's writing at sentence level. Because you are writing, so you have to be grammatically correct and it should be accurate. Coming to task 2, When you are talking about task response here, both in academic and general training modules in task 2, it requires the candidates to formulate and develop a position in relation to a given prompt in the form of question or statement. Ideas, they should be supported by some evidence and examples that may be drawn from the candidate's own experience also. And responses must be at least 250 words in length. And writing scripts, they're marked by trained and certified Ielts examiner, and they know everything. Believe me, they know everything. Scores may be reported as a whole band or half bands. So in the coming pages, we will find candidates answer to two sample writing tests, and there are answers for each writing test. Each answer has been awarded a band score and is also accompanied by examiner comments on the candidate's performance for the task. The examiner, they have the guidelines of him for making the writing scripts are very detailed. So there are many different ways candidates may achieve a particular band score. So the candidates' answers that are going to come should not be regarded as a definitive examples of any particular band score. They may vary. So they are just example for those candidates who are preparing for Ielts. So let us start. This is our task 1 of academic writing. This is task 1A. At least 20 minutes should be given to this task. And the task is, the chart below shows the number of men and women in further education in Britain in 3 periods and whether they were studying full-time or part-time. Now you need to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparison wherever they are relevant. So this is the chart. This is a bar graph, as you said. So here everything is clear. This is x-axis, this is y-axis. X-axis is showing years 1970, 71, 80, 81 till 90, 91. This is for male, this is for female. Thousands in further education from 0 to 1200. And these are people who are full-time. These are full-time and these are part-time. So how they are changing? So this is for males and this is for females, and 1970, 71, 80, 81 and 1991. So there are 3 periods, 70 to 80, 80 to 90, and these are the periods which we are going to talk. So let us see the answer of band 5. So this is a bar chart of the number of men and women in further education in Britain in 3 periods. In 1970, most of men were studying part-time, but from 1980, studying part-time was decreased and studying full-time was increased, and in 1990, it was twice as many students as in 1970. On the other hand, women studying full-time were increased, and not only full-time, part-time also were increased in 1990. Studying full-time was 3 times as many students as in 1970. So if compare men and women, as you see in 1970, men were studying more than women full-time or part-time, but it changed from 1980 and then in 1990. So women were studying part-time more than men, and studying full-time was same number. So it shows you women has high education now. So the comment is the length of the answer is just acceptable and there is a good attempt to describe the overall trends, but the content would have been greatly improved if the candidates had included some reference to the figure given in the graph. Without this, the reader is lacking some important information. The answer is quite difficult to follow, and because if I only read this, you will not be able to generalize it. Means you cannot relate what you have you see here. You cannot witness all those things here. Means you cannot relate. So the answer is quite difficult to follow, and there are some punctuation errors that cause confusion. The structure are fairly simple, and efforts to produce more complex sentences are not successful. So how it is happening? Male, these are males, these are females. Males, see, in this period 1970-71, full-time, part-time education was more. Male had more. Then it gradually decreased. It's decreased and then increased. Means from we have to give a rollover. First it was this much, say some amount. Then it decreased and then it increased in this period. While the part-time, this full-time education, part-time education we have covered. This full-time education, it gradually increased starting from this much amount to this, right? First discuss about male, then you discuss about female. What has happened? This part-time education of female, which started from this, has gradually increased, but it has increased higher to male in this quarter, means this period 1990 to 91. While this has increased female from 1970, this full-time education has increased from 70 to 71. It has not increased much, means small increment as compared to the male counterpart. Now compare male and female. Now female and male has, we have defined them. We see in this 1970 first quarter, male were having part-time education more than female. Then they equated somewhat in the second period, and then it has decreased to the female counterparts, right? So eventually what we can conclude from this graph is, though the full-time education have increased both in first quarter for 3 period for males as well as females, the part-time education of this male was changing. It is changing, and while these female ones, they are increasing gradually. So this you can write. So now let us see band 6 examiner comment. Before that, we'll read this sample script B. Let us read this. As I indicated you and told how we can answer, let us go to it. According to this graph, the number of men and women in this further education in Britain shows the following pattern. In the case of male, the number of male has declined slightly from about 1000 in this to about this in this year. However, this figure rose back to about this in 1990 from about 820,000 in this. The proportion of full-time education has declined during this period. However, the proportion of full-time education has increased dramatically. While coming to the female one, and is on the other hand, in the case of female, the number of what it is written, both full-time education and part-time education has increased during this period. From about 700,000 in 1970, these figures rose to about 820 in 1980 to about this 1000 in 1990. In terms of full-time education, this figure rose to about this much amount in 1990-91. On the other hand, with respect to part-time education, this figure rose dramatically between 1980-81 and this much. However, this figure rose slightly between this 80-81 to 1991. So as you can see, you can observe that this is a good attempt, but still some things are lacking. What are these? The candidate has made a good attempt to describe the graph looking at global trends and more detailed figures. There is, however, some information missing, and the information is inaccurate in minor areas. The answer flows quite smoothly, although collectives are overused or inappropriate. Means, on the other hand, it is used twice and they don't link up well. The grammatical accuracy is quite good, and the language used to describe the trend is well handled. However, there are problems with expression and the appropriate choice of words, and whilst there is a good structural control, the complexity and variation of the sentences are limited. And furthermore, I will add one more thing, that the comparison of male and female has not been carried out. So we have just seen that how well we can define and write about just a simple bar chart. If in how many different ways you may write, an examiner comments would have told you that what are the content which are lacking, though both the candidates have tried their level best, but still improvement is required, what you can easily do. Thank you so much. Take care.